Hi there, I'm Tylynn from Bitterroot DIY, and this week we're putting together this end table. You can grab the full plans as well as the lumber list and cut list over on bitterrootdiy.com, and I'll put the link in the description. This would make a great end table as well as a nightstand, so let's get started. I started by cutting all the boards to length according to the cut list. Now, I think it's easiest to cut the boards with a miter saw, but if you don't own one, you can always use a circular saw. After you've finished all the cuts, drill pocket holes in each of the ends of the frame boards. So this is going to be everything but the legs. Then it's time to start assembling. So I use both wood glue and pocket hole screws for good strong joints. And you'll see here that I have 2 pocket holes in one side of each of the boards and 1 in the others. So when I'm working with this many frame boards, I'll usually do 2 on one side and 1 on the other just to save some screws. Using 2 screws on one side prevents the board from twisting, but since you're also using wood glue, in my experience the joint is plenty strong if you just use 1 screw in the opposite side. Now if you want to be extra safe, you can do 2 pocket hole screws as well as wood glue on both sides, but this is just how I try to save some screws every now and then. So you'll see here that I started assembling the frame from the top. However, if you check out the plan set, you'll see that I recommend assembling it in a slightly different order. The process is still the same, but you'll start with the bottom and middle 1x2s instead of those very top 2x2s. I ended up having to remove those top 2x2s when I put the top shelf in, which you'll see here in a bit. So here are those bottom and middle 1x2s for the frame going in. I just repeated the same process with wood glue and pocket hole screws as I worked my way around the rest of the frame. Once you have the whole frame assembled, it's time to close in the cabinet portion. I ripped the plywood down to the correct width on my table saw and then cut each piece to length on the miter saw. But again, if you don't own these tools, you can make all of these cuts with a circular saw. Once I cut all the plywood to size, I use wood glue and brad nails to attach these sides to the frame and close the whole thing in. If you notice, the table has a little wobble when it's on its side here, but don't worry about it, the frame is square. But one of those 2x2s had a small bend to it, so just make sure to find as straight of boards as possible. I kind of fought that leg the whole time, but it worked out in the end. After the sides were closed in, I used wood glue and pocket holes to attach the bottom shelf. The top shelf is a little different than the bottom shelf since it sits on top of those plywood sides. I cut the shelf to size and then used a jigsaw to cut the notches in each corner to fit around the legs. So this is where I ran into trouble with the top of the frame. I had to remove those top 2x2s so I could fit the shelf in. Once I took that piece apart, I applied wood glue to the top of the plywood sides and then pressed the shelf into place. And then once the top shelf was in, I was able to reattach the top 2x2s. In the plans, I recommend leaving those 2x2s out until now so you don't run into the same issues that I did. Also, just disregard that I attached this front 1x2 after installing the shelf. If you follow the plans, that 1x2 will already be in place. Okay, on to the cabinet door. There are a lot of ways to build cabinet doors, but this is just how I typically do them. So I cut the rails and stiles to length and then used a 1/4-inch straight bit to route the grooves along the edge for the center panel. So you want to route grooves along the full length of the rails and then a stopped groove along the stiles. When you're done with the grooves, drill 2 pocket holes on each end of both rails, and then you're ready to put the door together. Apply wood glue to the ends of the rails, and then use the pocket hole screws to attach them to the stiles. Insert that center panel into place and then attach the final stile to finish up the door. I use 2 butt hinges to attach the door, and I find it easiest to attach the hinges to the door first and then to the cabinet. Since this door sits inside the cabinet frame, I added a small magnetic catch to the edge of the door and inside the frame to stop the door in the correct place. I had to attach a small scrap piece of wood so that the catch sits flush with the frame, but then I just screwed it into place and it stops the door right flush with the cabinet. I attach some hardware to the front of the door and then it's good to go. Last but not least, I built a tabletop. Now the camera quit recording partway through here, but I did write out the step-by-step over on the full plan set. I used staggered pocket holes and wood glue to attach all the boards together. And then I attached it to the end table. I used small corner braces, but you could also use figure 8 fasteners or just screw through the frame into the top. And there you have it, your DIY end table. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.